I was sleeping and woke up to pounding and screaming on the door. The mother was furious and kept screaming about how I'm selfish and trying to kick out a single mum, etc. Neighbours were watching and I kept trying to explain, but she and the baby just kept screaming. I lost it. I'm beyond exhausted and just screamed back. Hi guys, welcome back to I Speak English. My name is Hayley, and in today's class we're going to be taking a look at some real English for C1 and C2 level. So a lot of classes that are designed for the Cambridge C1, C2 exams, they teach textbook English, academic English. And yes, that is helpful, but if I were to kind of plonk you down anywhere in the UK and say, survive with your textbook English, that'll be very difficult. You need to know real English that people actually use in the street on a daily basis to help you survive. And also just to make your English sound more natural as well, so that when you're talking, you don't sound like a textbook. So today, we're going to take a look at that in class. So stay with me here if you want to learn how people actually speak. Before we do take a look at that, please do make sure that you are subscribed to the channel so that you can watch lessons with me every week for free. I upload long-form videos every Saturday and shorts every single day, so you can learn English every single day if you like. And if this video is useful for you, please give it a like as well. It just helps it to reach more people who are also studying for their exams or just studying English in general. And it helps them to build their vocabulary as well, get some real English. So do that for me if you can, and we're going to take a look at our real English. So let's take a look at our real English then. So you might be thinking, okay, well, what is real English? Maybe you've never been to an English-speaking country before. Maybe you don't use English every day in your, in your normal routine. What I've done is I've actually stolen this from one of my conversation lessons that I taught a couple of weeks ago. If you'd like to join my conversation class, by the way, you can click up there. I'll put the link there. You can join our group. I've got one group running at the moment, but hopefully I'll open a few more in the future. But this is actually taken from that class. So what we did was we looked at a Reddit thread. If you don't know what Reddit is, it can be a little bit toxic, but it is a really great resource if you're learning English, because it's basically people making threads, either with questions or with dilemmas that they have or anything, and it's people responding to these threads, and it's usually native speakers of English, so you can get to see how people genuinely write and communicate. It's a great way to learn slang, idioms, colloquialisms, different regional things that people write. It's a really fantastic resource to learn real English as an English learner. Careful with it, it can be a bit toxic, depending on which thread you're on. But the thread we read was Am I the Asshole? Which is basically, basically people put dilemmas on there saying, okay, this situation's happened in my life. It was really horrible. It was difficult. And I need to know if it's my fault. Am I the asshole or is someone else the asshole? So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to read some of these dilemmas for you. We're going to take a look at the vocabulary, and then you're going to tell me in the comments what you think. Who's the asshole here? Okay. Right, let's take a look then at our first dilemma. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to read it all once through, and then we're going to go back and take a look at the different vocabulary, and then you're going to give me your opinion. So, am I the asshole for filing a noise complaint about a single mum with a newborn? Okay, right, so I, 26 female, live in an apartment. I'm a resident in a medical profession, and I work 100 hours a week, plus a lot of additional hours of studying and paperwork. I hardly sleep as it is. I cannot wear earplugs because I need to be able to hear my phone when on call, or if I'm called out to a patient under my care. This happens frequently, and I never turn off my phone and only update it when I'm at work. Just to give you an idea of how strongly attached I am to my phone. My downstairs neighbour recently had a baby. Since she came home from the hospital, I haven't slept through the night. I'm woken up every 1 to 2 hours by the baby, and this baby screams. I know the mum is trying her best. I'm sure she doesn't want to be woken up by the baby either, but I'm losing it. I fell asleep Thursday, standing up in the middle of rounds. Okay, this one I'll explain because it's a bit tricky. In the middle of rounds, my attending was not impressed and I was reprimanded. All right, let me explain this. So the rounds, so this person's a doctor or a trainee doctor. The rounds are when a doctor goes to each bed in a ward. We call that rounds. You do your rounds because you literally go around to every patient and you talk to them and you tell them what your problem is. So this person was in the middle of rounds, in the middle of going around to every patient, and they fell asleep standing up in front of the patient because they were that tired. Then it says here, my attending was not impressed. My attending doctor, that means. The attending doctor is the doctor that you kind of follow around. When you're a trainee doctor, when you're training to be a doctor, there's another doctor, a real qualified doctor there that you kind of follow around, and that's your attending doctor. Okay. So the attending doctor, their kind of boss, was not impressed. Okay. So let's take a look at the rest of it. So my attending was not impressed and I was reprimanded. My boyfriend has been encouraging me to file a complaint because it's not fair. I can't sleep. I've tried to talk directly to my neighbour to ask if she could stop walking around her whole apartment. I've tried sleeping on the couch, which is better, but the mum walks the baby around the apartment. I've tried asking her if maybe there could be some soundproofing done, but every time I've had the chance to go to her apartment, she's got a note on the door about the baby sleeping and please don't knock. I do not have her number or another way to contact her. I feel weird about leaving a note and want to address it in person. So I spoke to my landlord Friday evening. I was very clear that I'm not trying to blame this woman. I just wanted to know if there could be some soundproofing done or something. The landlord said they'd look into options. Well, Saturday, I had a day mandated because now I'm considered a risk to patients. Okay, mandated means it was obligatory. So the hospital said, you have to have this day off. We don't give you a choice. They're forcing her to take a day off because I'm now considered a risk to patients, which is causing a whole host of issues for me. I was sleeping and woke up to pounding and screaming on the door. The mother was furious and kept screaming about how I'm selfish and trying to kick out a single mum, etc. Neighbours were watching and I kept trying to explain, but she and the baby just kept screaming. I lost it. I'm beyond exhausted and just screamed back. I told her her baby's so loud she might cost me my job and that I can't function anymore because of her and that soundproofing isn't the end of the world. If she can't soundproof, she should be considerate and F off from apartment living. She started crying and left. Okay, bit of a tricky one. First, before you give me your opinion, hopefully you understood most of that. If you didn't, don't worry, we're going to go through it a bit slower and we're going to take a look at all of that vocabulary. So let's go back to the first bit. So, I'm a resident in a medical profession. Okay, resident. So resident normally means you live somewhere, but when we're talking about medicine, if you're a resident doctor, that means you're like a trainee doctor in a hospital and you're only there for maybe a year while you're training or something like that. So you're the resident doctor. Okay, she works 100 hours a week. She's got lots of paperwork. She's studying. She doesn't sleep anyway. She cannot wear earplugs. Earplugs are the things that you put in your ears so that you block noise out. She needs to hear her phone when on call. Okay, so if you're on call, this bit here. If you are on call, we use this normally for medical professions, but any other profession, a fireman, for example, sorry, I should say firefighter, not fireman. Firefighters, medical professions, police, anything where you work in an emergency situation, but you're not, let's say you're not actually in work, but you are expected to go to work if there's an emergency. You are on call. Because it basically means you're not at work, but if someone calls you, you have to go to work immediately. Okay, so she can't turn her phone off because she's on call all the time. And she cannot put earplugs in because she needs to hear her phone if somebody rings her to go to work. So downstairs neighbour had a baby. She came home from hospital. The baby's crying every 1 to 2 hours. She wakes up. She's put here, I'm losing it. Okay, if you say I'm losing it, it's like you're losing your mind. You're going crazy. Okay, if you say I'm losing it, it's like, that's it. I've gone crazy, losing my mind. I fell asleep in the middle of my rounds, where you go round to each patient. My attending was not impressed, the attending doctor, and I was reprimanded. If you are reprimanded, then you are shouted at. This is a formal way to say you shout at somebody, but we would use this probably more in a professional context. If you get reprimanded, then yeah, you get warned and basically shouted at that you're not doing your job correctly, essentially. My boyfriend's been encouraging me to file a complaint. So this is a nice collocation here, to file a complaint, which basically means to give a formal complaint. But we would use the word file instead. Okay, she's tried talking directly to the neighbour, but it's really difficult. She can't knock on the door because there's a note. She's asked if there could be some soundproofing done. Okay, soundproofing is where you put special material in your home to block sound, either from coming out of the house or from coming into the house. Soundproofing would be the noun. Soundproof is the verb. She doesn't have a way to contact her. She doesn't have a phone number. But she wants to address it in person, it being the problem. So nice collocation again. You address a problem. If you, how do I say this? Not like necessarily solve the problem, but you talk about the problem to somebody. You literally say to someone, okay, this is a problem. Then you address the problem. Okay. And I spoke to my landlord on Friday. Your landlord, if you rent property, your landlord is the person who owns the property. Landlord for a man, landlady for a woman. We use that in British English. I'm not sure if they use it. I guess they do use it in American English as well. I'm not sure if there's an American equivalent to landlord or landlady. The owner, I guess. It's definitely British anyway, landlord, landlady. Okay, she's not trying to blame the woman. She knows it's difficult, but she's just not sleeping. She had a day off mandated, forced on her. She woke up to pounding and screaming. If you pound something, you hit it very hard like this. The mother was furious, and she said she's trying to kick out a single mum. Okay, so kick out. If you kick somebody out, you forcefully remove somebody from a room or a property. If you want it literally, you would quite literally kick the person until they leave, but we don't usually mean it literally. We mean it's just like, get out. Okay. And I told her her baby's so loud, she might cost me my job. Yeah, we use, if something costs you something, it's like you have taken that thing away from me. So your baby cost me my job. Your baby took my job away from me. Or this cost me my life. You could even say if something killed you, you paid with your life for that thing. So that's a nice expression as well. All right. And then it ended with the woman crying and leaving. So now we understand it. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Who's the asshole here? I would say nobody's the asshole. Really. I mean, it's a difficult situation for both of them. New baby, impossible. You can't stop a new baby from crying. If it wants to cry, it cries. But the other person is also completely exhausted as well with the amount of hours they're working. To me, soundproofing is the solution. But if this woman is 2 weeks postpartum, good luck trying to have a rational conversation because she's exhausted and hormones and everything. So she probably feels like she's failing as a mother or something. Because she can't stop her baby from crying, and then you're adding on to that. So yeah, it's not the best. Maybe you could go and stay with a friend for a few weeks and sleep on their couch and actually get some sleep, just so the mum settles in and maybe the baby will stop crying a bit more. But I would say nobody's the asshole, really. I think everyone's just exhausted. But let me know what you think in the comments. Write your opinion in the comments. So hopefully you got some good vocabulary there. Again, you can see how people write genuinely on this this thread. It's a really, really nice thread to learn real English. Speaking of vocabulary as well, I have made for you, I've made a new project for you, specifically for Cambridge C1 exam. It'd be useful even if you're not studying for the exam either, but if you are, it's great. It's got all of the grammar and vocabulary that you need to pass the exam. The reason I made this was because my students, you know, I'm teaching them grammar, I'm teaching them vocabulary in the lesson, but they're really struggling to use it actively. So when they need to say it, that, you know, it's not coming into their mind quick enough. So that's why I made this, because it gives you a way to actively practice the grammar and vocabulary, not just passively learn it. So it kind of forces you to write sentences. You've got multiple choice things as well. You need to rearrange sentences. There's lots of different ways for you to actively practice tons of grammar and vocabulary. And it's just a nice way to build everything over a couple of months. I'm testing this at the moment with my students. It's not out publicly yet. Well, at the time when I'm recording this anyway, it might be if you're watching this video later. Either way, click up there. If it's not out, this link will take you to a waiting list. You can sign up there. As soon as it's ready, I'll send you an email and you can have a look at it and start learning from it. If it is out, it will take you to the platform and you can use that there. All right. Links in the description as well, if either up there or in the description, either way. Anyway, we're going to carry on and we're going to take a look at our next dilemma. Let's have a look. Am I the asshole for not letting my half-brother's mum take him and giving her a criminal record? Okay. My parents, female 40, male 45, are junkies. Okay, our first word, junkie. Junkie is slang for a drug addict. Someone who has addiction problems, a slang way to refer to them is a junkie. Okay. So, my mum and dad are junkies, and I, female 17, am the caretaker of two siblings, Ethan 14, Josh 3. Ethan and I are biological siblings. Josh was from an affair between my dad and a girl, Julia, 20, female. See the difference between the daughter and the woman who gave birth? Oh my god. Julia gave up Josh, so he's in the custody of my father. So Julia gave up her child, as in she said, have him, I don't want him. I left school at 16 to work full-time. Ethan works part-time, so Ethan's the 14-year-old, and is planning to drop out to work more. Him and I pay $1,200 a month for rent, and our landlord watches Josh when no one is home. So Josh is the 3-year-old. Okay. So far we have a 17-year-old and a 14-year-old working and paying $1,200 a month rent while also looking after their 3-year-old brother. I'm inclined to believe this person's definitely not the asshole so far, but let's take a look. So our landlord watches Josh when no one is home. He's a churchgoer and is doing this out of kindness. Julia has never met Josh. Julia is Josh's mum, remember? She gave him up. Obviously aside from birth and during when this happened. And is an unstable addict herself. So Julia, the mum of Josh, is also an addict as well as the two parents. This is relevant so you can have some context as to how little Julia is involved. Okay, a few weeks ago, I had a day off. So I took Josh to the park. In not the greatest area, homeless people hang around there, etc. As I was standing and watching Josh, a woman walks up to me. It's Julia. I hadn't seen her since Josh was born. She seemed sober and she asked if she could come and meet Josh. We exchanged numbers. A week later, after explaining that she was not to introduce herself as mum, she came over to meet him. I thought if she could be consistent for a while, they could have a relationship. She came over and it went great. She was sober and in a good place and did not mention anything about being his biological mum. I told her she was welcome to come over as long as Ethan or I was at home. Ethan is the older brother, remember? Another week after that, at about 3 a.m, someone bangs on our door. Sometimes my parents will do that if they lose their key. So I got up and looked through the peephole. The peephole is the hole that you have in your front door so that you can see who is on the other side of the door. It's Julia. She looks rough and was obviously high. Okay, so if you look rough, you look really terrible. If you are high, that means you are on drugs. You're kind of like out of your mind on drugs if you're high. I foolishly let her in, thinking she needed a place to sleep. She comes in and starts screaming for Josh and that his mother was here to get him. Ethan and Josh sleep in a locked room due to the sometimes strange characters my parents bring home. I yell for Ethan to call 911. 911 is emergency services in the US. The cops come, the cops are the police, and arrest her. She gives them an obviously fake name. So here is where I might be wrong. I tell the police her real name, and that she has an outstanding warrant. The police ask me if I would like to press charges. I say yes. The warrant was for intent to distribute drugs, so a heavy sentence. Okay, a sentence, let me explain this bit. So she has a warrant. A warrant is when the police want you, basically. If you have a warrant out on you, the police want to arrest you, but they can't find you. He asked if she'd like to press charges. If you press charges, you formally report the person to the police and it's written down and that person goes to prison. The warrant was intent to distribute drugs, so it's a heavy sentence. A sentence here is not a phrase. It means you get a prison sentence. Your sentence is how long you go to prison for. So you might get a 10-year sentence or a 5-year sentence. That's the amount of time you go to prison. Later, I go on my phone and I have endless messages from Julia's friends saying I went too far. I was a kidnapper or that I ruined her life. One actually called CPS. CPS is Child Protection Services in the US. One actually called CPS and told them my parents aren't involved in Josh's life. Now he could be taken away. And since my parents are absent and Julia likely won't be convicted, he could end up with her or in foster care. Because of that, my brother is saying I'm the asshole for pressing charges and telling them her actual name and risking both he and Josh be taken. Okay, tricky situation. All right, so to recap, this girl and her older brother are basically responsible for all rent and caring for their little brother because both of the parents, plus the parent of the little brother, are drug addicts. The parent of the little brother tried to come into their house and get their child. She called the police. She pressed charges, but now the police won't put her in jail. But now child protection services are involved and may take the little brother away because the older brother and sister are not legal guardians. And they could also take the older brother away as well because he's only 14 and his parents are also not involved in bringing him up. So, what do you think? Who's the asshole? Let me know in the comments. It's a hard one. No, yeah, I think to avoid all the conflict, like she's got a hard enough life as it is, the woman who's the drug addict, I would say. So I would say I wouldn't have pressed charges. I would just say, like, get out of my house and don't come here again. If it continued, if it was like a continuous thing every week, then yes, I probably would. But in that instance, I wouldn't, just to protect the other kids. So I would say she's slightly an asshole. But, I mean, she's literally the mother of both of her little brothers. You know, she's 16 years old and working and paying rent and everything is crazy. I don't know. Let me know. What do you guys think in the comments? All right, I've got one more for you. I did actually have two, but this is turning into a really long episode. So we're gonna take a look at one more. This is quite a bit more complicated situation, but we'll take a look. So Am I the asshole for euthanizing my daughter's emotional support animal for her own sake? So this is a tricky one to begin with. Right, let's take a look. So to euthanize something means you humanely kill someone or an animal in order to stop that person or animal suffering. So we normally do this to animals, to dogs and cats, when they get very old or if they've been hit by a car or something and they won't have a good quality of life. You kind of inject them and then it basically kills them, but it stops them from suffering pain. It's also legal to do it for people, but in very extreme circumstances, and there's only a few countries that actually do this. So, am I the asshole for euthanizing my daughter's emotional support animal? This is definitely in the US. This thing is like a US thing. Emotional support animals, it's basically like a pet that helps you with depression. But I mean, pets help you with depression anyway, but whatever. For her own sake. This word sake is very difficult to describe. We use it a lot in English. For her own benefit, let's say. Sake has a lot more meanings. We can go into that in a bit later, but for now it means benefit. So, am I the asshole for humanely killing my daughter's dog for my daughter's benefit? That's the title. Now let's take a look. So, my daughter recently turned 20. She's been dealing with major depressive disorder, social anxiety, anorexia, body dysmorphic disorder, and 2 autoimmune diseases since she was around 12. I'm very involved in her treatment and obviously want her to get better. So when her therapist recommended getting a dog to register as an emotional support animal, we got her one for her 16th birthday, named Juniper. I genuinely dislike animals, but it was for my daughter's sake, my daughter's benefit. So I caved. Okay, I caved. If you cave or cave in, we use the phrasal verb to cave in. It's like you give in, you give up, you say, oh, okay, like you surrender. It's like, okay, fine. I don't want to do this, but fine, I'll do it for you. So it's like you surrender to someone and do something that you don't want to do. So again, we use cave or cave in. If you imagine, what I imagine here is literally a cave and the roof of the cave literally falls in under pressure. So it's like someone's pressuring you and you break and you say, okay, I'll do this thing. So that's what I imagine in my head, this like a ceiling just caving in. Don't know if that'll help you or not, but that's what comes into my mind anyway. All right, so it was for my daughter's benefit, so I caved. Junie, as in the dog, and my daughter grew up close, and I have seen a notable difference in her since we got the dog. Nice collocation there, notable difference. Especially in her sense of independence and self-esteem. 4 years later, my daughter is now a part-time tutor. She volunteers with the elderly and attends school full-time with excellent grades. I'm so proud of how far she's come. And though I realise she has a ways to go, like an informal version of saying she needs to progress a lot more. She has a ways to go. She's not there yet, but she's getting there. Though I realise she has a ways to go, Junie has helped her, and I credit the dog for that immensely. If you credit someone for something or you give them credit for something, it's like saying, you did that thing. You are the reason why this was a success. I credit you for that. Okay, here's the problem. While my daughter was at school, Junie got out of the house and got hit by a car, since we live right in front of a busy street. My wife and I rushed her into the vet and were told that Junie would need surgery, which could cost somewhere in the ballpark of $2,000. So in the ballpark of is an informal way of saying approximately, somewhere in the ballpark of $2,000. I make a good salary, but I just cannot justify spending that much on a dog, especially when it may not even work and Junie would probably be crippled. Crippled means disabled. Plus, she was pushing 5 years old. This is nice expression here. We use pushing with an age to say that you're almost that age. So she was almost 5 years old. She was pushing 5 years old. I am pushing 35, because I'm almost 35. Plus, she was pushing 5 years old, and her breed only lives for 9 to 10 years. Due to all these reasons, I decided the humane and logical decision would be to euthanize Junie, would be to kill her. At this point, I called my daughter to let her know the situation and the solution I'd chosen, and she freaked out on me. You freak out, you go crazy, you lose control, you shout, you say, horrible things. She tried telling me how she had $700 in savings and would quickly find a job to pay me back the rest, to which I declined because A, it's not just about the money, and B, I don't want to risk ruining her mental health by her getting a job, especially since she'd likely have to quit one of her volunteer jobs, which has helped her so much. I explained this to her, but she wasn't hearing reason, so I put my foot down and said my decision was final. So if you put your foot down, you say, this is it, this is the decision, that's it. No one's arguing, the conversation's over. Okay. I put my foot down and said my decision was final because the dog was technically mine since I paid for it. Then I hung up. As in I hung up the phone, I put the phone down and I ended the call. We put Junie down, surrounding her with love and gratitude. Okay, to put down, phrasal verb here, we put Junie down. Put down is the phrasal verb for euthanize. We would only use it with animals. You do not put a human down. You would say euthanize a human. For animals, you can say put down. We put Junie down, surrounding her with love and gratitude. When I got home, my daughter just pulled in. She just parked her car. She just pulled in and was hysterical. I told her she was too old to be acting like this, and one part of becoming a competent, independent adult was accepting what life throws at you. Now she isn't speaking to me, I'm beginning to think I should have at least told her where we were so she could say goodbye. On the other hand, Junie already served her purpose in helping my daughter, and she only had the dog for 4 years, so I don't understand the huge overreaction. Am I the asshole? I 100% am gonna say he is a total asshole. I don't understand how this person wrote this entire thing out without understanding how much of an asshole they are. I'll let you guys tell me in the comments what you think. If you don't think he's the asshole, then I don't know what to say. But yeah, let me know. There'll be an interactive thing, actually. I'll put an interactive thing up here. You can click asshole, not the asshole, whatever. Yeah, horrendous. I'm beginning to think that... So he said at the start that she had all these problems. Let me try and flick back. Here we are. He said at the start she has major depressive disorder, social anxiety, anorexia, body dysmorphic disorder, and 2 autoimmune diseases. That doesn't come out of nowhere. I'm beginning to think she's like that because her father is a terrible human being. Maybe. Just maybe. I think I've gone through all of the vocabulary with you there. If there's still any other vocabulary or something that you didn't understand, let me know in the comments, and I'll get back to you. And for today, I'm going to say that's it. I did have another one for you, but this episode's getting super long, so maybe I'll make another episode like this. If you enjoyed this lesson, please let me know in the comments. If you want me to do more of them, I will. Any questions or anything, again, let me know. And if you want to take any lessons with me, if you want to join my conversation group, click up there, or you can go to www.englishclassesonline.co.uk. All my lessons, group lessons, individual lessons, video courses, everything's there. Head on there. And I'd be happy to have you in class and we can actually discuss this together, one-to-one or in a group. That's all from me for today, and I'll see you in another class soon. All right.